Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Building Subtext. Today, I want to go over a brand new feature that leverages awesome artificial intelligence features to make it more fun to write stories. So I have loaded up my Hunger of the Dead zombie love story. And if you're following along with the last episode or two, where I was using Subtxt AI features to build out the objective story plot, then you know what the story is all about. I started with the main character and just really talked about Ken's personal struggle and his own personal baggage. And then I went to the objective story and did some of the plot, which turned out insanely cool. And then even went into some detail on that. And while working on this and putting this all together, it started to occur to me that I needed to round out the whole players feature in Subtxt. Originally, I just had the protagonist and antagonist because I wanted to keep it simple. But as I was going through it, it became really clear to me that it would be really cool to add the same thing for all the players so that when you add all the elements in, you basically can just figure out who your players are and what they're motivated by, and then just drop them into the story and it'll basically write the whole thing for you, which is pretty cool. Let me just show you the current iteration of it. So this is the players section here, and we have three groups of players. We have groups of players, we have an individual, we have relationships. Relationships are strictly for the relationship story Throughline. And while there is a relationship, a love relationship between Ken and Hannah, that'll be in a different episode. And then the only other difference is individuals are individual people, and then groups are groups of people. So you can see here I have survivors. So this is like a typical zombie apocalypse thing. And then I have Ken here, and Hannah was his girlfriend that he is partnered with that is ending up turning into a zombie as they're going. She is a zombie and he has to do something about it. So instantly you'll see that it looks much different than it did in prior versions of Subtxt. And there are some more features added to it. Let's just look at Ken here at the beginning, and you'll see the motivation in regards to restoring for oneself. So we're going to talk about these elements here. Like you'll see Ken has a void and Hannah has pursuits. These are all elements. These are all motivations in regards or in context to the objective story goal. So if we come into the story form for this story, the objective story goal is obtaining. When somebody is driven to avoid something, that's usually in service of obtaining. So like keeping in control or wanting to maintain control. And then at the end, the way to fix that is to go after something. The way that this narrative is set up is that Ken represents the avoid side of the argument and Hannah represents the pursuit side of the argument. And this is the central argument between the two players. You can think of the classic "you and I are both alike," which is this thing here. This is an AI generated version of what their argument would be based on these two positions. Ken is somebody who's motivated to avoid responsibility, and he sees it as a great way to resolve conflict because it allows people to stay in their own lane. So that's where he's coming from. And then Hannah here is opposed to that in that she looks out for others. So that's where the dynamic of the two come in together. And this is the crossover point between character and plot. That's what you're seeing here. And so she thinks when you look out for someone, you're displaying one of the most fundamental aspects of human nature, compassion. So that's where they're coming into conflict throughout the entire story. And this is the basis for the argument that the author's making. So this is the argument that I'm making. I didn't really think of what this argument was. I essentially just copied the story form for The Lion King, Black Panther, Mad Max Fury Road, all those where you have an objective story plot that is centered around physics, like doing things or going on an adventure. And then you have a main character who is dealing with their place in the universe and that it's inequitable. And in this one, it's because he's partnered with a zombie. So that in mind, in order to have everything hold together, so this story form is meant to keep the story consistent so there aren't any plot holes or any broken stories. If you look down here, goal obtaining, so that what we do is we drop into the objective story and you look here, the synopsis of the objective story points, which is where we're going to find the goal here at the top. Story dynamics are how those story points are related to one another. And then the story beats are the beats of the objective story through line. And the idea is that you would have a bunch of beats for each of the 4 perspectives. And then once you have those, then you can start to weave them together into key moments in your story. Let's go into the goal. Illustrate how you see restoring for oneself as the common goal. So what I've done here is, while obtaining is the story goal, this is the part that is structurally intact, the storytelling on top is a little different. Now, the general illustration, the random one, was restoring for oneself. So obtaining can also be illustrated as restoring something, as achieving something. Here, I wanted to make it restoring a sense of peace for someone you love. And that is my story-specific illustration of the obtaining goal. So up here, you have the storytelling on top, and underneath is the subtext, what that really means. Now, because it is obtaining and moving towards it, then the person who is motivated by pursuit becomes the protagonist. So what subtext does here automatically is whoever is motivated to avoid is automatically the antagonist, and whoever is motivated to pursue is automatically the protagonist, which you might think is quite strange because Ken is the main character. So he is a main character antagonist. This is the thing where the main character is really their own worst enemy, in that they're the ones avoiding what they really need to do. And so they become completely essential to both the main character through line and the objective story through line, the resolution of both, in that it's Ken's inability to let Hannah go is the very thing that prevents him from moving on without her. It's a very classic, very simple story. This is the element of avoid, and this is the illustration of it that I came up with. And then here we have Hannah pursuit. Hannah pursues a course of action to help restore peace for those closest to her, especially Ken. So the idea is that while he's trying to keep them together, she's trying to find a way that they can split apart. Real quickly, I have gendered illustrations here, which will help out when it comes time for the story beats. You have male, female, and non-binary here, which the results from that are really great. You can check that out in the subtext guide, or I might do another video on it. Let's talk about Ken. We have avoid and pursuit. They're very basic. It's like, all right, Ken's going to be avoiding and Hannah's going to be pursuing. So there might be other elements or other motivations that we want to attach to them to make them broader and make them more exciting. You have 3 ways of adding elements. If you're really familiar with the dramatic theory of story and you know what all 64 elements mean, you can easily just add it in there and it will add it right underneath avoid. If you're not so sure, then what you might want to do is suggest something. So you can come in here and it will suggest, and it looks to see avoid and pursuit are taken. So let's see what other ones are open. Help, control, consider, and conscious. I really like control because that sounds like Ken. Ken is a very controlling person. So I'm going to add control there. I'm not sure exactly what that kind of control looks like. So what I can do is I can just shuffle here and subtext will go through, oh, Ken has control of a group. So maybe Ken has control over the team of remaining survivors, and there's no way he's going to let that go. All right. So then that would be avoid and control. Now, once you have 2 of those together, what you can do is you can summarize them and put it up here in the general description of Ken. So I will go through and I will summarize these. And sometimes it just combines the 2 sentences together. Other times it will go through and combine them in a way that's interesting and maybe add something else. Ken's inability to go is the very thing that prevents him from moving on without her. He has control and there's no way he's going to let that go. Ken's need for control and power is what stands in the way of him finding peace after Hannah's death. I didn't even say that she died yet, so I'm not sure where it got that, but that is actually what happens. And that is what the story is all about. And you'll see here the limit. It's nice to keep it under 300. If you go over 300 characters, I don't use that when it comes time to put together the subtext of it. But now Ken's finished. Like, to me, this is great. He's great. This is perfect for this kind of story. It doesn't have to be superly, overly complex character. Let's look at Hannah here. And let's see what other suggestions. Oppose, conscience. Oh, I like conscience. So let's add conscience there. Even though she's the one turning into a zombie, let's see what she has going on here. Restrains a group from making a regrettable decision. Okay, Hannah restrains the group of survivors from making regrettable decisions, even if it means harm to her. So now you have these 2 illustrations. you can summarize them together, and we're going to get a really nice illustration of Hannah for the story beats. Hannah's willing to do whatever it takes to help her loved ones find peace, even if it means putting herself in harm's way. She is level-headed and able to think clearly in difficult situations, which helps the group of survivors make better decisions. That's incredible. And so what now is going to happen is when it goes to build the story beats, it's going to be intelligently picking out from this to determine what they're going to do in the story. When it comes to avoid and pursuit, they're going to be at odds with each other. And then that's what's actually going to play out when it comes time to see what they're going to do in each scene. Because each scene has a thematic issue attached to it. So for instance, in the beginning, it has to do with fate. And I've already done this one here. The second one is about prediction. And so what you do is then you come in here and you can say, okay, how is Hannah going to deal with prediction? And you'll spin that, and that's what you get here. Or you can switch it and see, okay, what does Ken do when he deals with prediction? And then you can also modify the different versions of prediction, because foreseeing a group's future is one way of looking at prediction, but here are other ways of looking at prediction. And so what that is you have all the different objective story characters are going to be dealing with the same thematic issue in terms of the story beat, what they're dealing with, but then their particular take on that or their particular illustration of this issue can be completely different. They'll come up with different ideas. The AI will help you find really cool ideas that you never even thought of before. And then what you do is you pick the best ones that you like, and then you merge them together, and it's going to be thematically consistent because they're all tied to prediction. It's really cool. And then once you merge them, then you can move on to the next one and just build your entire story that way. One other thing left in the players section here is, okay, so I have Ken and Hannah, and I have a general sort of feeling about survivors. So I want to add somebody else in the team. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to create a new player, and he's called Individual. So I'm going to call him Tom. I'm going to make him male. And you'll notice he has no buttons here, no assign, suggest, or add. And that's because technically he's not a part of the story yet. He's not a part of the objective story through line. He's not a part of the main character through line. He's not a part of the influence character, and he can't be part of the relationship story. So the way to get these buttons to turn on, you have to assign him to the objective story. Now that he's assigned to it, now I can come up with the different elements and start spinning them and find out what's left. Help, faith, free, and post. These are great, but maybe I want to do my own sort of version of what Tom is all about. Let's say I had an idea for Tom, and Tom was always jealous of Ken and his relationship with Hannah. So now, because of her situation, whenever he gets a chance, he tries to break them up or to go against anything he says so that Hannah might find friendship with him instead. Okay, so I just made that up. I don't think it's like the greatest thing in the world, but he's jealous of Ken. So now because of her situation, whenever he gets a chance, he tries to break them up or to go against anything Ken says so that Hannah might find friendship with him instead. Again, if I know those elements, I could come in here and find one of the 64. Or what you can do is super cool is you can have Subtxt read this and give you an idea of what it finds as being. That's so cool. So out of all of these, it says, you know what? Temptation would be a great motivating element for what you wrote here. And that to me is brilliant. This is the first time when you're seeing an application, a writing application, reading, storytelling, and getting structure out of it so that then you can then tell a complete story. And oppose and control are great for that too. I would have definitely thought oppose for sure. Temptation is really cool. I never would have thought of that. So this green one means this is the key one that you would want to add. Control, you can add, but what you want to try to avoid is repeating the same elements in different players. So if Tom is motivated to control and Ken is motivated to control, they're really just going to be pitted against one another. When they're in the same room doing the same thing, it's like, well, I'm going to be in control. No, I'm going to be in control. And you think that would have conflict in it, but really it doesn't. Narratively speaking, they would just zero each other out and it would be pointless. You might as well just remove it. You can hand it off from one. So if Ken dies and then you would give it to Tom, then he could be the controlling person. But try and avoid that as much as possible, especially when you're just starting out building the story. You don't need to go crazy and have so many elements and all that stuff. I would definitely add temptation. I think that's brilliant. And I'm going to add oppose too. I think both of those are awesome. So let's see. Temptation. Tom baits someone. Oh, that one's kind of cool. Let's see what else. Baits a trap. Oh, baits a trap. At least suspects it. And then oppose. Let's see what you got here. Tom disputing with a group. Oh, yeah, I would say Tom never wastes a chance to dispute any sort of plan he comes up with. You can see that's amazing. And then the other thing that's cool too is, so now that Ken and Hannah are aligned against each other with avoid and pursuit, because those naturally come into conflict. Now, because Hannah is motivated to go with conscience and try to make people not have any kind of regrettable decisions, Tom is somebody who's motivated towards temptation. So they're Tom and Hannah, even though Tom's trying to get with Hannah, they're going to be opposed against each other because conscience and temptation clash. So while he's trying to tempt Ken away and to tempt them into problems that make it harder for the team, she's going to be working towards conscience. So that's going to create all kinds of conflict and maybe she ends up killing Tom later. Now, I really like this motivation here already. If I wanted to, you can go ahead and summarize these two, and it should just add it to the bottom. Yeah. Tom is jealous of Ken's relationship with Hannah, and now that she is in a difficult situation, Tom tries to break them up or to go against anything so that Ken might find friendship with him instead. So what this did is it combined this original thing here with these two here. And I actually think I like this better. So I will take this out. There. Boom. That's how you go about building. What you do is you build up all kinds of different characters. And then when you come into the objective story, then you can go through and build out and see what each character does in each and every situation. Now I've already done the first act. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all these story beats. In the beginning, she is out for a run and she's tackled and dragged into the woods by a group of people and she's bitten by a zombie and starts to turn, but Ken stays with her to fight for her. Hannah helps Ken avoid heartache and fate worse than death. Oh, this is more stuff which I would get into more detail, but this video is running long, so I just wanted to show to keep Hannah from losing her mind completely and running off on her own. Ken sets it up so she can feed off one of their own. The remaining survivors find out and turn on both Ken and Hannah. That's right. So I had this as the first plot point where, in an effort to keep Hannah with him, he actually serves her up somebody, and then now the two of them are on the run. In this transit here, which would be what most people would consider Act 2A, there is a lot of learning going on in the objective story plot here. So you can see the subtext of it is her journey is a metaphor for the process of accepting oneself after going through a major life change. So that gives you an idea where you can see here the storytelling on top, which is this classic zombie apocalypse thing, what's happening underneath. The subtext has gone through and read the subtext of what the story is really about underneath. And the first part of that is fact, which, oh, I guess I already did that one. Maybe I don't want to do that yet. Security. So I'm just going to drop in. So you can start anywhere. This would be the fun and games for you save the cat people. This issue right now is security. It's activity, which is fun because it's a zombie movie. So let's use that. How does he find conflict? I don't like security clearance. Let's see. Is safe and sound. Is secure. Provides a safe haven. Oh, the team. So you can see I took provides a safe haven from something and I just made it story specific. So how does Ken find conflict? He's trying to provide a safe haven for he and Hannah. Oh, I wanted to make sure it looked like he went a little bit overboard. 305. So Ken's inability to let go is the very thing that prevents him from moving on. Without her, Ken has control over the team, and there's no way he's going to let that go. Ken's need for control and power is what stands in the way of him finding peace. I'm going to see if I can just do this. That should save it. Okay, so let's go back to the objective story. And now it's going to find out, based on that motivation I just read, what is Ken going to do when it comes to engaging with security? And let's see what it comes up with. It should come up with a couple of different ideas. Ken provides a safe haven for the team, but he is resistant to expanding their opportunities. This causes tension among the group, and some people are killed. Ken is stubborn and doesn't listen to reason, which causes a lot of the conflict. Okay, that's great. So maybe I could do that. And maybe I'll try, let's see one more, see if it can get me different ideas here. And here we go. All right, yeah, this is a bunch of different ideas. But he's resistant. Ken's resistance to expansion creates opportunities. Ken's refusal to change his ways leads to the death. And these are all pretty much the same. Let me see if I can find, get rid of the story. Oh, seeks asylum. Oh, let's see, seeks asylum. Let's see if that works out. All right, because he's trying to avoid everything and trying to avoid being caught or having Hannah be killed. So let's see. Ken's resistance to change leads to disaster. His obstinacy leads to the team's downfall, with people dying as a consequence. This one's already pretty good for that. So let's see what Hannah does. So he's trying to avoid it, and you can see it's generating that when you try to avoid and try to keep things safe, it gets people killed. Let's see if I can do Hannah, and let's see what she's doing. Let's make her go through, oh, insecure. Let's make her insecure. All right. Because obviously she had no idea she was going to kill that person or eat that person. Let's see what this comes up with here. Hannah offers to go on a supply run with a zombie against Ken's wishes. She's able to reason with the zombie and get it to help the group. I'm not sure how that's insecure, but that's a cool idea. She thinks it's too dangerous. Hannah is able to convince him to stay. Oh, this is cool, because what's happening is she's trying to find a safe place for them, but he's resistant. So she's dealing with his insecurity. Not necessarily that she's insecure, but that she's dealing with some sort of insecurity. Wow, this is great. Ken is resistant to sharing. I'm back in the group. Okay, I guess, but Ken's resistant. He thinks it's too dangerous and is able to find food and supplies. He thinks the group doesn't need it. Maybe here. So Hannah's able to find food and supplies. So let's say Tom actually went with them, but Ken's resistant to sharing. He thinks the group doesn't need it. Hannah's able to convince Ken to share, and the group is able to survive. So maybe he's insecure about Tom, which would make sense. But do you see how we're getting this? And some people are killed. So maybe there are some people that leave with them and we'd have them drop off. I'd go back and create them and have them fall out when they get killed. And let's see what Tom does here in this beat. Seeks immunity, finds refuge. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see what good old Tom. Tom tries to convince Ken. Tom tries to break up Ken and Hannah so that he can have a chance with her. Do you see? It's taking that motivation. Tries to convince Hannah to leave Ken because he is too stubborn. Oh, like he tries to convince Hannah to leave Ken because he wants her to find refuge in him. Sabotages Ken efforts to provide us. Yes, this one's great. Look, Tom sabotages Ken. So now we know what Ken's doing in terms of security. He's trying to provide a safe haven so people are killed. And they're killed because Tom is going to sabotage his efforts. And then Hannah is able to find food and supplies. But Ken's resistant to sharing because he's had to deal with Tom sabotaging. We already have a really great story going on here. So what you want to do, I'm just copying it in case, is you have merge and continue. Merges these ideas together into one paragraph, which is what you want to do. So let's see what that looks like. So you take that, you put those together. He provides safe, but he's resistant to expanding their opportunities. This causes tension, and some people are killed. Ken is stubborn and doesn't listen to reason. Hannah is able to find food and supplies, but Ken is resistant to sharing. Tom sabotages. Okay, I would have done. That's okay, but let's do. But he is resistant to expanding their opportunities. That's a little awkward, and some people are killed. Let's say, but he's resistant. Oh, letting others lead the way. That's what that means. This causes tension among the group, and some people are killed. Okay, that was scary. I thought maybe it was something else, but the screen recording software I was using crashed. This is still here, and it looks like it saved all 30 minutes. Okay, so what I was trying to do is he provides a safe haven for the team, but he's resistant to letting others lead the way. This causes tension among the group, and some people are killed, but also because Tom sabotages Ken's efforts to provide a safe haven for them. So I like that. Ken is stubborn and doesn't listen to reason, which causes a lot of conflict. Oh, I would say I'm mixing these together to get a general story idea of what it is and to get a nice flow. I'm still doing a little bit of work here. Ken is able to find food and supplies. Okay, see if I can merge these together. Hopefully it'll be a little bit clearer. Sometimes it just combines them together. All right. It looks like I pretty much have a summarized way of doing this anyways. All I did was put it together. A couple things you can do here with this. So now I've got a really great idea of what happens here. He's trying to provide safe haven for them. Some people are killed along the way. He's stubborn, doesn't listen to reason. Tom sabotages because he's trying to get with Hannah. And then Hannah's able to find food and supplies, but now Ken is set against Tom. What you can do here, so you can see thematically, it's an exploration of security while learning. You can go ahead and have subtext put this into a title. The group is able to survive because Hannah is able to convince Ken to share the food and supplies she found. Great. That's perfect. I know I don't have this first half here, but at least I know when I'm going through and writing this, whatever writing application I use, I know that this is the general topic of what's going on. And the other thing you can do is you can take this and you can just have subtext continue the storytelling for you. So let's see. Ken and Tom get into a fight and Ken is killed. Hannah takes over as leader and she and Tom are able to find a way to get the group to safety. It's a completely different idea. That's not what I wanted because Ken at the end is supposed to live. Let's see. It doesn't help that I've closed off this idea. Let's see if I cut this out. And now let's try and continue this. Because now what it'll do is it'll take this and build on it. Let's see what it does. Here we go. Tom was starting to get on Ken's nerves. He was always trying to take charge and make things happen, even though he had no idea what he's doing. Ken had enough of Tom's antics. You're not the boss of this group. You don't get to make the decisions. I do. That's his motivation of control. But I'm the one with the plan. I'm the one who knows what we need to do to survive. What's that? What's your plan? We need to find a way to get out of here. We need to find a way to get to safety. And how do you propose we do that? You just want to walk out of here and hope for the best? That's not a plan. That's suicide. No, I have a plan. I've been thinking about it. We can use the zombie as a distraction while it's attacking us. We can make a run for it. And what if the zombie doesn't attack us? It's just so great. So it took this idea and it just went ahead and gave me a great idea of some dialogue between the two of them that fits not only with the structure of the story, because this is all about security, but it's also tied into their motivations, which is tied back into the story form here, which is ultimately tied back into my narrative premise, which is avoiding something, and you can give something away, or you can basically restore a sense of peace for your life. So that's it for this week's episode of Building Subtext in the New Players section. If you have any questions about how any of this works, please don't hesitate to ask, and I will see you next time.